Once upon a time, in a hidden valley nestled between misty mountains, there lived a young man named Run. Since he was a child, he had heard tales of a sacred place, the Garden of Truth. The wise elders of the valley said that whoever found this garden would discover answers to all their questions and a peace that nothing could break. Eager to find it, Run prepared himself with everything he thought he would need: maps, supplies, and tools to clear his path. One spring morning, without waiting for any sign, he set out on his journey. He walked quickly, almost running, convinced that the sooner he arrived, the sooner he would find happiness. However, the path was long and winding. As he hurried along, he failed to notice the flowers blooming at the edge of the trail, the whisper of the wind among the trees, or the sweet scent of cherry blossoms in the air. Inside, a voice kept shouting, "I must get there. I must get there quickly." But the path, indifferent to his haste, seemed to stretch farther and farther. Until one day, an old man meditating by a stream looked up and, smiling, said, "Walk slowly, young one. Everything true awaits you." Run stopped, bewildered. How could he possibly reach his destination by walking slowly? And yet, in the stillness of that moment, something within his heart began to stir, like the first budding of a tree in spring. Run sat down next to the old man, not quite knowing why. The stream flowed before them, slow and clear, as if it had no destination beyond its own gentle course. For a long while, neither of them spoke. Only the sound of the water filled the air. Finally, the old man broke the silence. "Where are you rushing to, young traveler?" "I'm searching for the Garden of Truth," Run replied. "I've been told that there I'll find everything I've ever sought. Purpose, peace, answers. I don't want to waste time. The world is moving fast, and I'm afraid of being left behind." The old man let out a soft laugh, like leaves falling in autumn. "Left behind by what?" he asked. "Who sets the pace of the race if not you yourself?" Run frowned, uncomfortable. He had never thought of it that way. He had always believed life was a race, against time, against others, against himself. The old man stretched out his hand and pointed to the landscape around them. The trees, the lilies, the clouds drifting slowly across the sky. "Look," he said, "everything true in life is never in a hurry. The flower does not bloom before its time. The river does not rush to meet the ocean. Walk slowly, and you will see that what is meant for you is already waiting." For the first time on his journey, Run closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and simply let the world be. When Run opened his eyes again, the landscape seemed different, though nothing had really changed. The colors were more vivid, the whisper of the wind clearer, as if the whole world were speaking to him in a language that had always been there, one his rush had kept him from hearing. He stood up slowly, bowed deeply to the old man in gratitude, and resumed his journey. This time, each step was deliberate, each breath an offering to the present moment. As he walked, he noticed things he had missed before: tiny butterflies dancing over the grass, a deer drinking silently from the stream, and an ancient tree that seemed to tell stories through the creak of its branches. The anxiety to arrive melted away, like morning mist under the sun. In its place, a new feeling grew: trust. If what is true awaits me, Run thought, there is no need to rush. I only need to walk with an awakened heart. The path was neither shorter nor easier, but now Run no longer searched for shortcuts. He was discovering that each step, each moment, was already part of the garden he had so longed to find. As he continued walking with a serene pace, Run began to encounter other travelers. Some were running desperately, nearly out of breath, stumbling again and again. Others stopped at every moment, anxiously asking anyone who passed by if they were on the right path. Run watched them with compassion, remembering himself not long ago. One afternoon, while resting in the shade of a willow tree, a young woman approached him, panting, her eyes filled with frustration. "Are you also searching for the Garden of Truth?" she asked, almost out of breath. Ren nodded with a calm smile. "Then why aren't you running?" she insisted, puzzled. "If we don't hurry, we'll never find it." Ren took a moment before answering. He looked up at the sky, where the clouds drifted softly, indifferent to any urgency. "Because I've come to understand that the garden is not a place you reach with your feet," he said, gazing at her kindly. "It is something that blooms within us when we walk with patience and love." The young woman frowned, confused. Run did not try to convince her. He simply offered his companionship, walking at his own pace, allowing life to unfold without forcing it. Some people continued to run, but others, seeing the peace that Ren radiated, began to imitate his slow and mindful steps. And so, the path, once lonely and frantic, gradually became a silent procession of souls learning to trust in the perfect timing of life. The days passed and Ren no longer counted time. The path itself had become his home. Each sunrise was a blessing, each sunset a whisper of gratitude. One morning, as he walked through a clearing bathed in golden mist, Ren realized something. He had stopped searching. He no longer asked for the Garden of Truth, nor did he look to the horizon hoping for signs. He was simply present. It was in that state of full acceptance that he heard a soft melody, like the distant echo of a lute. Following the sound without haste, he came upon a moss-covered stone bridge. Crossing it, he found himself before a great gate of ancient wood, slightly ajar, covered in flowering vines. There were no guards, no trials, no riddles, only a warm breeze that seemed to invite him in. Ren paused. He looked at his hands, his simple clothing, the dust of the road upon his feet. He was no longer the impatient young man who had once set out. He was someone new, someone who had learned the art of waiting without expectation. With a serene smile, he gently pushed the gate open and stepped inside. On the other side of the gate, Ren found himself before a sight that took his breath away. It was a vast garden, but not the perfect one he had once imagined in his youthful dreams. The flowers grew wild, the trees intertwined without any set pattern, and the paths wove themselves naturally, as if born from the whims of the earth itself. The Garden of Truth was not a place of rigid order, but a living reflection of the flow of existence. An old gardener, with a serene face and eyes as deep as lakes, approached Ren. Without a word, he placed a small seed into the palm of Ren's hand. Ren looked at it, confused. "What am I supposed to do with this?" he asked. The gardener smiled with infinite tenderness and replied, "You plant it, you care for it, and you wait. All that is true blooms in its own time." Ren closed his eyes for a moment, letting the teaching sink deep into his being. He finally understood that it was not about finding immediate answers, nor about conquering a glorious destiny. It was about becoming part of the garden, growing with it, with patience, with love, with faith. He opened his eyes and, with steady hands and an open heart, set about planting his seed. Ren chose a corner of the garden, where the sun gently caressed the earth, and carefully planted the seed. His hands, now accustomed to slowness, did not rush the process. He covered the seed with soil, watered it with clear water from the nearby stream, and then sat in front of it, waiting. The days turned into seasons. The seed did not sprout immediately. At first, Ren felt the old impatience stir within him, whispering doubts. What if nothing grows? What if I did something wrong? But then he remembered the old man by the stream. "Walk slow," Everything that is true is waiting for you. So he breathed deeply, released his anxiety to the wind, and trusted once again. As he cared for the seed hidden beneath the earth, Ren also cared for himself. He meditated under the trees, helped other travelers who came to the garden, shared smiles, silences, and small joys. Unknowingly, in his heart, something far greater than any plant began to bloom. A deep, serene, unshakable peace. One morning, when he least expected it, he saw a tiny green sprout push through the earth. Fragile, luminous, full of promises. Ren smiled with silent tears in his eyes. He had learned that what is true is not forced or conquered. It is cultivated with patience and love. With time, the small sprout grew into a strong and generous tree, whose roots embraced the earth and whose branches gently touched the sky. In its shade, Ren found not only rest but also his purpose: to be the guardian of that sacred garden, helping others understand the art of walking slow. He no longer sought answers, for he had discovered that life itself, with its cycles of planting, waiting, and blooming, was the answer. Each new traveler who arrived, eager to find the garden of truth, was greeted by Ren with the same seed in hand and a smile on his face. And when they, bewildered, asked what they should do, Ren simply said, "Walk slow, care with love, and trust. Everything that is true is waiting for you." Thus, the garden of truth continued to grow, not through conquest, but through the patience of hearts that learned to bloom in sync with the silent rhythm of the universe. And Ren, the young man who once ran after answers, became a living part of the eternal garden, where all that is true always arrives when we learn to wait.